Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
It's turbo time!
Let's say you're a fan of Turbo Man, the fictional toy from the 1996 comedy Jingle All the Way. Let's say Turbo Man had a half dozen movies, a handful of cartoons, a couple hundred comic issues, and a Netflix original series. Let's say there's been multiple Turbo Mans, both in the form of different actors and in the fact that Turbo Man has become a legacy character, and multiple characters have gone by the Turbo Man moniker. Hell, there's even been a revival, and the original guy has come back in some big crossover event written by Jeff Johns. And through all of that change, you've remained a fan of Turbo Man. You have an encyclopedic knowledge of Turbo Man's lore, and even know the details of the Turbo Man film rights to a degree that industry lawyers don't. You love Turbo Man. You also love to complain about how bad certain runs in the comics are, how awful Turbo nipples were on the Turbo suit, how dumb it was to shoot Turbo Man in the head and have him go by Rick Grayson.
Never forget, never forgive.
And wouldn't you just know it, thanks to the internet, you're not alone.
What the fuck is the internet?
You join a subreddit all about how awful Turbo Man is now, how poorly run the Turbo Man franchise is handled. You watch hour-long YouTube videos by people saying what you're thinking, but louder. Fuck Turbo Man. They ruined him. I hope Turbo Man Rise of the Turbo Force flops. That'll show them that they're messing it all up. This is what fandom is. Someone creates a product. In order to sell this product, whether it be a sports team, music, video games, movies, or even Turbo Man,
It's a wonderful restaurant.
It sure is.
they try to make the product resonate with its audience. Make the product seem like someone you would like. Don't you love Wendy's now that they tweet mean things and seem lonely, horny, and directionless like you? What does Wendy's sell? Week-old chili made from leftover burgers. And while attempts at humanizing brands are pretty obvious,
Fact is, more people enjoy the big taste and big refreshment of the real thing. Yeah, this one, Coke is it.
humanizing in films, TV, and video games is done much more naturally. It's with character. Thanks to the power of characters, companies can create brands based entirely on these characters, carefully crafted to that coveted demographic of 14 to 27-year-olds. Look, Thor plays Fortnite, now with Thanos mode. Buy more V-Bucks, don't forget the Battle Pass, and see more Disney. What did Disney make? Week-old chili made from unsuccessful franchise characters. Has anyone seen The Robinsons?
Teach the controversy.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to make money. And if you can entertain and make money, that's the goal. You win. I'm not here to say making money entertaining people is bad. I'm old enough to have seen most of my favorite franchises fail me. In books, movies, television shows, video games. Which is fine and probably normal. And I like to think I've learned something about myself and fandom in this process. And that's simply, don't ever be a fan of anything. I was the oldest child of my family. My parents didn't care for Star Wars. My extended family didn't care about it. It wasn't until the special editions of the original trilogy that I saw a Star Wars movie. It was A New Hope on the big screen. I met Han, Luke, and Leia for the first time, and I had to know what happened to them. So after seeing A New Hope, my mom went and rented Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi. In one weekend, I had seen every Star Wars movie ever made. I followed this up by reading the Extended Universe books thanks to my library card. And once the prequel movies started coming out, Star Wars Mania got even bigger for me. There were hundreds of new characters, new stories. Star Wars was alive again. And the fandom? They were not happy. Phantom Menace was not a good movie. Neither was Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith is a good movie in its own ironic and cheesy way. But fandom, by its very nature, is corrosive. Bad Star Wars movies were worse than no Star Wars movies. Suddenly there were fan movies like The People vs. George Lucas. People unironically, sometimes with tears in their eyes, would shout out dumb things like, "George Lucas raped my childhood." And I was there for most of that too. I participated in it. I even said things like, the prequel movies are awful, they have laughable dialogue, no soul, no wit. They lacked any character you could possibly care about, and they told a story every fan already knew just to prop up a toy line. But again, to a fan, they can't just be bad Star Wars movies. You have to hate them. Tribes are important to people. And the more you hate it, the more the tribe accepts you. So I hated the prequels, and I was proud to hate the prequels. I was cheered on by others who professed their hatred for it. When Disney bought Star Wars, there was no doubt they would monetize the franchise even harder than Lucas had. Under Lucas, we had never seen an end to Star Wars movies, re-releases, and merchandise. But with Disney's near monopoly on entertainment, near endless capital, Star Wars monetization would enter a new era. The Force Awakens wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. And that was enough for a lot of people, including myself. The Last Jedi was aggressively not for me. The actual plot is kind of boring. The film meanders a lot without any real tension. But it's mostly an okay fourth quarter franchise movie. However, the choices made in that movie were counter to my own thoughts on the characters and themes of the series. I especially took exception with Luke Skywalker's portrayal. And again, I found the internet had a lot of folks that agreed with me. And just like last time, the more I hated the movie, the more the tribe accepted me. It feels awful to hate something you love, to feel obliged, to be outraged for months, perhaps years. But that's fandom. You love something so much, you identify with it so much, you take that product and incorporate it into who you are. You absorb its morals, its lessons. You base at least some of your identity on that product and your relationship to it.
If you don't chew Big Red, then you.
I can't be the only one that's shown someone I cared for a movie, song, or game that I loved and felt personally rejected when that person didn't like it.
You're the Sith Lord.
But that's just a product. Your relationship with it is entirely one-sided. If you buy all of Ariana Grande's music, go to every one of her concerts, buy all of her merch, learn everything you can about who she is and where she's from, it's still a one-sided relationship. You're not friends with her. She isn't singing for you. You have nothing in common with one another. The same thing can be said for the Miami Dolphins, Fallout, Star Wars, Steven Universe, The Grateful Dead, My Little Pony, Coca-Cola, Marvel, every other product ever made. It's psychotic to love a product, and being a fan means being a fanatic for a product. And so is the culture around fandom. The echo chambers, the weird cottage industry of YouTube fan outrage. Outrage and anger fueled by ad revenue. Created by people who don't want good products that they like, because then there's nothing to be outraged about, which generates the clicks and more ad revenue. And the producers of products want these echo chambers. They either fan the flames themselves, targeting fans negatively and making the outrageous fan complaints part of their marketing, or they aggressively try to cultivate a fandom with team this and team that, or by ending an episode of television and beginning the hour-long post-episode talk show. Everything moves product. So, am I saying that you shouldn't love anything? Of course you should love things. Especially people, yourselves, your pets, your children. But giant franchises helmed by corporations trying to make a buck? There's a quote from the character Rufus in Kevin Smith's movie Dogma.
He said mankind got it all wrong by taking a good idea and building a belief structure on it.
You're saying having beliefs is a bad thing?
I just think it's better to have ideas. I mean, you can change an idea. Changing a belief is trickier.
I just think it's better to have an idea of what you would enjoy. Try new stories, meet new characters, try new universes. You might surprise yourself and expand your idea of what you like. But changing a fandom, that's trickier.
Just for the taste of it.